My name is Srini Vishnubharam. I'm a product manager for Salesforce Analytics. We have here with us today Mark Runyon from SuccessFactors. Mark is responsible for sales operations and sales enablement technologies at SuccessFactors. This also includes Salesforce, which is their primary application for SFA as well as reporting and dashboards. As part of defining, managing, and rolling out best practices as well as sales processes, Mark also works very closely with other departments in the organization like marketing, finance, and professional services. As part of today's session, Mark will be covering two important aspects about sales analysis. One, the need for real-time reporting and dashboards in the sales organization and the business benefits. Two, he'll also be talking about some of the key factors that enhance sales productivity in the organization. He'll be walking us through some of the examples of the best practices that he's put together at SuccessFactors using Salesforce reporting and dashboards. So before I hand it over to Mark, just a quick reminder. We'll have a Q&A session in the end, but if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt and Mark will be happy to answer. So with that, please welcome Mark Runyon.
Can you all hear me okay? Welcome. Looks like some of you did not stay out too late last night, so safe harbor. I'll skip that. Seen it a few times. All right, so Srini introduced me. I do manage sales operations and enablement at SuccessFactors. I want to go over a little bit about SuccessFactors. We have 2,800 customers, 180 countries, 60-plus industries, and a whopping 5.4 million users, which is very large for a SaaS-enabled company. You may have heard of us a little bit. Our primary goal is to bridge the gap between strategy and results. We have a SAP application that does that. We want to do that through execution. We do that with business alignment and people performance. You've probably heard of some of our applications, goal management, performance management for HR reviews, and things like that. It's all SaaS online. Like Salesforce, we do offer our customers analytics and dashboards. They can come and build their dashboards to measure people performance and metrics. And I think with that philosophy, our company is very much data-driven. Internally, we base a lot of our decisions and things we do philosophically and believe in dashboards and analytics throughout the company. So quick agenda, I'll go over how sales operations is organized at SuccessFactors, go through some of the business needs and challenges. We'll talk about some real-time visibility, enablement, some benefits Srini mentioned. We'll go through some examples for each one of these areas. So SuccessFactors organized small, medium enterprise sales teams. We have lead generation and solution consultants that support these teams, or solution engineers, right? We have global sales teams in North America, EMEA, APAC, and Latin America. Primary business processes we use, pretty typical: lead to opportunity, quote to order, forecasting, and we have a variety of different Salesforce users. Not only sales is in there, but we have finance is in there, marketing, professional services comes and goes inside the system. Our CRM landscape, for the size of the company, we have a lot going on, but it all starts with Eloqua at the front end on the web, pumps in through leads, if you're familiar with that application, and marketing runs that for marketing programs. We have Inside View, which is tied to our contacts and accounts and leads for data services, people and accounts information. And then we use Big Machines is integrated with our opportunities for quoting in the system, which is also tied to our back office, which is NetSuite, and of course we use Exactly for compensation reporting. All right, so let's go through some of the business challenges. I'm sure some of you have seen these before. They're pretty typical. What people want, they need real-time visibility. They need to be able to see the data they need quickly and efficiently. Everyone wants to increase sales productivity. That's a common theme. And we want to increase collaboration between teams, between sales, between lead gen and sales, between solution consultants and sales, and the rest of the organization. So, without the right solution, your business can't suffer, right? You get lack of real-time visibility. If the reporting is too hard to create for me or for other people in the organization, I can become a bottleneck on sales operations. If our sales team can't create their own reports or modify a report that I create, causes issues. Reduced productivity due to unreliable numbers or trust in the system. It's important to have a trusting system. So what's the right solution kind of look like, right? It starts with real-time visibility. People want to be able to get the data they want now, and then that helps user adoption. If you got real-time visibility with reports and dashboards, and it shows where the data is missing or what needs to get updated, it incents people to get in there. They can create their own lists, call lists, task lists, and then that needs to translate into business insight and action, of course. So real-time visibility and user adoption can result in actionable insight and sales productivity. Okay, so without real-time visibility, you're kind of flying blind. Some of the things that happen in the system, managers have their own spreadsheets, and if they don't get the information out of the system they want, they can start to abandon the system. They'll start to download their own spreadsheets. They'll start working off their own spreadsheets. If it's not real time as well, the forecast, they'll be out to date, and they'll be behind, and they'll lose some trust in the data. In our situation, we've had designated people download and create. I don't know if you've had a similar situation. Do forecasting in Excel, collating spreadsheets, running around and collating as a last minute, end of the month or end of the week to do a weekly forecast. So this is pretty typical. You've all seen this. I'm going to go through a little bit more detailed examples here, but past, present, future, pretty typical. Manager dashboard. They use this throughout the week, throughout the quarter, to see where they're at. I don't think anything should be striking on this if you've used Salesforce. We do a lot of stuff on attainment, top 10 deals, all kinds of uses for managers. One of the things that I do want to, being familiar with Salesforce a little bit, when we installed Salesforce, we spent a few minutes, and whenever I go through and help a manager or team build a dashboard, I kind of sit down with them and say, well, what's the short-term and long-term with your dashboards and what you want to do? I don't know if you built a good dashboard at one point. The next thing you know, you build a great dashboard, people like it, everybody else wants it. And then you can quickly, if you don't think things out too quickly, you'll end up building tons of different reports to build your dashboard, and it's not going to be as dynamic. One nice feature in here, of course, is the cloning and setting the running user. I try not to forget about it. Sometimes I'll quickly build a dashboard and go, oops, I didn't set it up correctly to be able to clone it. Then I have to go in and figure out what went on. So, in this example, there's 5 dashboards on the left, all using the same reports. On the right, I've got, a set of reports that drive that. When a new manager comes on board, I can just quickly clone that, change the running user, and they're good to go, and everything rolls up, and it's all their data. Another, example we use internally for, the running user functionality can do a little bit more than that. It can increase the level or make public reports or dashboards that weren't normally public based on your user settings, right? So reps like to see where they stand against their peers. We don't want to show, actual numbers to all the reps across the company, but this is a public dashboard that they can see, a little healthy competition. Look and stack rank, just a little, tip here, if you set it to trillions, unless your sales reps are selling in the trillions, it will show up as 0 at the bottom, which is nice because you don't necessarily want to show everybody in the company what your numbers are, right? So a little more detailed examples how we use for collaboration. In our organization, we have lead gen reps who create appointments and activities for our sales reps. On the left-hand side, we have what appointments are completed and then what appointments are scheduled. So managers and reps can see Okay, this rep has been assigned a bunch of appointments that they need to complete in a certain timeline. Maybe this rep doesn't have enough appointments set up. Bottom rep down below has a lot fewer appointments set up than the top. We need to figure out why, what's going on with the lead gen team. How do we increase the number of appointments they get? We also do, you'll see it, our lead gen activity types on here. We also do internally, we score our activity types. The activity types, we also use calculated fields to get that, roll up the scores on those activity types. It's also used for compensation on the different types of activities that get scheduled and completed in the system. So let's talk about increased productivity with real-time visibility. So we've talked about a little bit these. We need real-time forecasting. People need to be able to go in there and see where their forecast is. They need to be able to update it. Rep needs to be able to update their forecast. Manager needs to see it real-time. We do live meetings out of the system as much as possible for our forecast calls. Example scenarios, we talked about lead gen and sales collaborating. They need to be able to go in there and see real-time if an appointment's created. They need to be able to see in the future what appointments they have and who with. And then we'll talk about a little bit more, but from an admin side, I need to be able to, I do a bunch of data cleanup, pull the data out of the system and put it back in the system. It needs to be real-time, or I just change territory alignment. We want to make sure that that gets quickly rolled out when a new manager comes on board, that they have the right ownership of the right records. So let's just recap some of the drivers of user adoption, right? So it starts with easy to use. People need to get in there and actually enter data and be able to get the data out that they want. We need to create reports that are relevant. Quickly abandon the system if it's not going to be relevant and helpful for them. You need to have reliable results. People need to be able to see the same thing. Be able to see the same things. If a rep runs a report, the manager needs to be able to see the same kind of report and forecast. It needs to roll up all the way up from manager to manager. It needs to be responsive. If you're a lead gen rep and you're running a call list or an activity list, you need to be able to pull up that list, go through your tasks, check them off, have the data refresh, and it gets inside. And it needs to be actionable too. And we'll talk about an example here at the end that brings that out a little bit more. Okay, so I'll let you read this cartoon for just a second here, and then we'll move on. I mean, I think, the point here, I think, is to some degree, if you're not careful and you're stuck building reports on your own, as in my case I have been, the bottleneck, and people start to rely on me to build the reports. I'd much rather build one report, let them modify that report, and move on. I don't want to be the sole keeper of all this information. So you want to make sure the report creation process is easy to use. It's not too complex. We'll go on and just actually run and do an example here. Everybody's seen a report creation wizard. In this case, it's just one report. Just wanted to point out a few things, right? So it is relatively simple. I create one report. Managers can go in here and they can change close dates. They can make changes to the report, save it to the personal folder. They can do the drill down. All these features are great because it helps the managers be able to, self-serve, and I don't have to call them. In certain situations, I've actually gone through, a marketing organization wants to do a competitive report, for example, right? Well, they need a calculated field. Sure, they'll call me and say, hey, we need to figure out how to do this report. I'll say, well, I don't have time to build you 4 or 5 different slice and dice this competitor report, but, let's spend 5 minutes. I'll build you a calculated field, put it up there. It's on the report, and they're good to go, and they can build out the reports they need. So a couple examples we use. In this case, we have cross-object reporting. If you haven't used the calculated fields or the roll-up field functionality, it's great stuff. In our organization, accounts are open to everybody to see, and contacts are as well. On the contact record, people want to be able to see, number of employees from the account. So, we have account record, the prospector, customer. It's got some data on there. It tells you how many employees are at that company. They want to be able to see that in their lists. and they want to be able to look when they go to that record. I don't want them to re-enter that data on that record, right? I want to be able to pull that data from the account record, pull it onto the contact record. It's there. If they need to edit it, they edit it in one place. I want to edit it on the account record. So with cross-object field, you can just pull that data and make it visible on the contact record. So the other thing is, too, as I mentioned, accounts are visible to everyone by permissions in our system, but opportunities are not, right? But there is some information that we want to be able to display from the opportunity on the account record, so we can use the roll-up functionality to say, hey, there are some live opportunities on this account. So if someone comes up and looks at that account or runs a report on that account, they can see, which opportunities are live, which accounts are live with live opportunities. So let's take a closer look at an example calculated field and reporting. So this is, a simple example. In our company, we have a ton of stages. It's a historical reason. I'd love to shorten down the number of stages. I think it's a little ridiculous. We've got 9, but, that's historically we have a lot of reporting done out of that system. But in reality, when people want to report on stuff, managers don't really want to look at, their pipeline by all these stages. It's a lot of stages. What they really care about is what's in your early stage pipe, what's in your late stage pipe. So you can use things like calculated fields here to bucket that up. Stages 2 through 4 are going to be early, and stages 5 through 9 are going to be late. What that does is on your reporting, right, instead of having, on the bottom here, early versus late stage, all your stages down at the bottom, you can bucket and say, here's your early, here's your late stage, here's the amounts in those areas, and they can focus in on that. So reliability, it's important for people to trust the numbers, or they'll abandon the system, right? It needs to be consistent. We'll talk about visibility a little bit. How Salesforce enables some of that consistent visibility that we like to see, and it needs to be in sync. So we need to be able to see what people see on the records is identical to what they see up in reporting. So if you're an admin, you're probably pretty familiar with your security permissions and roles, and they can vary from organization to organization. But intuitively, we think that an account, the account owner should be able to see all the relevant information on their account, right? The contacts, they should have access to that. They should have access to the activities and access to the opportunities, regardless of the ownership of those items, right? Just because a contact owner is somebody else, someone else may have created a contact historically, is somebody else, doesn't mean the account owner shouldn't see that. Same with activities. Activities for us are created by lead gen, we're created from marketing. A lot of stuff's created. The account owner needs to have a full view of their account. I think that's an important attribute when you get familiar with the way you have your system set up so that you understand that visibility. Another great thing we use all the time that helps with consistency and reliability is the sharing rules, right? Our VP of sales on the, so let's just, in this example, we have a manager on the sales on the East Coast who's got access to all the East Coast opportunities and accounts and can see that. And then we have the solution consultants manager and solution consultant team that should have access to those opportunities, but they shouldn't have access to everybody else's opportunities, right? So you can set up the nice sharing rules in the system that say, hey, the sales manager on the East and all their reports can see all the information that the manager on the East can. So the solution consultants, you can, put the visibility where you want it to put it, and when they go into the system, a couple things. One, you ensure a little bit of security, but also you only show them the relevant data that they need to see on the reports without confusing. And I don't have to once that's set up, I don't have to worry about it anymore creating reports, because I know by default, unless I'm doing something with dashboards or running users, by default, they're going to see what they're supposed to see. Okay, so let's. So this is just a comment on the visibility piece here and the one-time reporting. Rather than creating 10 different reports for 10 different managers or 10 different bunch of different reports, or teaching sales reps how to create reports on their activities, I can create in this case we created a custom report type, but to enable this report, but I can create one report, stick it in a folder, says here's all your accounts as the account owner, and here's all the activities relevant to you. From marketing, it shows you, who's active contacts into that account, and I can create it once and just point everybody to that report, and they can go in there and do that. Okay, so integrated metadata is pretty important. If you can, with a couple examples here on the left-hand side, we have just using custom fields on the user object. If you haven't done that, you can set up, sales regions on the user object when you set that up, and that's consistent across all the different objects and all the different reporting you have. So you could run, if it's on the user object by, Latin America, this person is assigned to Latin America, you can run reports saying, where's all Latin America opportunities and what's owned on the accounts for Latin American opportunities, which is a handy trick. If you want to do that's based on user ownership, not necessarily based on billing state or things like that. And I'll show you an example of that, doing territories based on billing state in a minute. On the right-hand side, we have custom and cross-object reporting example. We use, like I mentioned earlier, we use Big Machines. And one of the things with Big Machines is there's a workflow and approval process, right, through the quote order. Towards the end of a quarter, end of a month, people are trying to get their quotes out. We need visibility into where their quotes are and what the status is, where they're stuck in the approval process. Have they been approved? Have they gone to back office for booking? And what we want to do here is just be able to show managers exactly where all their deals are in that stage, especially towards the end of the quarter when people are frantically trying to get things closed. To flip back to the other example I had earlier, you can see that this isn't necessarily completely intuitive. There is a workflow process for quotes. It goes to, it's saved, it's created, it's sent to the customer next. It gets approved, and it goes to bookings. This is not necessarily a logical order. It says order accepted, order failed. It's not in the correct order. We can use that. Earlier we saw that example where I used the calculated fields to bucket up groups. I could do the same thing here, and I will. Now that I've put this slide up here, I noticed this. But I can put this order and say 1, saved, 2, sent for approval, 3, approval accepted, and actually make it look like a workflow that's a little bit more intuitive so people can see where the things are. Okay, so this is, Big Machines again. In this case, we used custom report types. If you haven't used them, they're very handy. We have, BMI's got a custom object that sits between Big Machines and the opportunity. So we can, with custom the report types, we can do a larger group of data and do a cross-object report and then put it up on the dashboard. Okay. So, performance is important. It needs to be responsive. Our execs use the dashboards all the time. In the case of that Big Machines example, that stuff has to be real time because they need to know exactly that day, that hour, where things stand with their quote. And they need to be able to create, some of our managers often create blitzes or call lists for their teams to run out. They need to be able to run those quickly and send them out. I'm going a little fast. Should I? What's that?
You have enough time to cover that.
Oh, I have plenty of time. So, lots of time for questions. All right, so I wanted to go through this example, which is a little bit more complicated. But so, business situation. We often go through, and most companies do. We do territory planning, territory alignment. We often refresh our data from an outside source, either Inside View, Hoover's, D&B, wherever we may get it, right, to go through the situation of what's the number of accounts in a state, what's the number of prospects by vertical, by industry. And in our case, in this example, is more of a white space example, saying, what's the potential of an account based on different parameters. For example, number of employees at an account, what industry are they in, what region are they in? Are they in Europe, U.S.? Based on those, based on research we've done and the customers we've had in the past, we can do a statistical analysis and say, hey, we know based on these 3 or 4 factors that, in fact, there's some probability that this is, an estimated total dollar amount you could close on this account. From that, we can, based on at the account level, if we do that calculation at the account level, we can roll that up to the state level, we can roll that up to the country level and the territory level and say, okay, this is the total dollar value for your territory patch as a manager that we kind of expect to get out. Now, it's, to be truthful, right, it's not the only thing that tells you, forecasting what that factor is, but it does help managers go through and say, here's, the top 20 accounts based on what we've seen in the past. It helps them prioritize that and put that out. So I'll show you another screenshot here, but how we did this basically is we've got, the account record. We've got a custom object off the account record, which we've imported a bunch of key data, number of employees, what vertical they're in, what region state, billing state information, billing country information. We've built a bunch of calculated formulas based on that to say, if X, if this country and number of employees and this vertical, then, give me an outputted estimated percent penetration rate. So we can do, penetration rate, multiply that by our estimated total of what number of seats there are, and then come up with a total calculated value for that ends up to be pretty useful. So this is what it looks like from a little more complicated view, but we've got our account record up at the top left. It's got a custom object rolling off of that. Up on the right, you can see there's a bunch of fields. I can't read it too well, but there's a bunch of calculated fields on there and a bunch of key information. You can see the ones that aren't grayed out here. We've got D&B employees total, D&B employees at the company, what the SIC primary code is, the industry SIC number. You can roll, the other clever thing we did there was, definitely spent some time saying, creating calculated field formulas that say, if this SIC code or 4-digit SIC code, then put it in our industry buckets that we want to use to bucket that out. If in this state, then it goes to this territory. If in southeast, if Florida, then it goes down to southeast. And then we use those calculated fields combined with some of these other calculated fields. It says if this is between this employee size band, then give it this value. Once that's, and then you can use a custom report type, right, to merge that together between your custom object, your account, and also we can do opportunities so you can look at, if it's a customer, you can look at the opportunity data. Roll that into a dashboard, right? Set ownership to a manager or rep, and then I can create one dashboard and clone that dashboard again a few different times for the different manager in their territory based on what that is. I can send that dashboard out to the manager. They have a good picture of, then they have a good picture of what their territory is. They can drill into the reports. They can customize those reports if they want, but we can do a variety of different things on the dashboard level. Total number of employees for that region, total estimated dollar value for that region by state, by vertical, any ways we want to slice and dice it. That's generally. So to conclude a little bit here, so impact on business, so real-time visibility been critical for us. Eliminate the bottlenecks. I don't like being a bottleneck myself. Through building templated reports that people can use. Integrated reporting capabilities have been important in the visibility and permissions. We've had, based on some of the real-time stuff that managers can do on their own, they definitely like to take ownership. I mean, it's another important point is if managers create their own reports and dashboards, they kind of get in there and use the data. They feel more comfortable with it. It starts to become their own. I think that helps adoption quite a bit. And reports and dashboards are critical to have up there for people, and we're always creating more and more. So some of the things that we're doing now, and there's a lot, and based on this last couple of days and things I've heard, this could change a little bit as you get some ideas at this conference, right? But trying to reduce the data entry through auto-calculated fields. So one of the things we used to do is on the account record, we used to, automatically ask reps to say, okay, you go type in the number of employees you think are at this company. Or it comes in from the web and it's got it on that. Someone's put it on their web and said, this is the number of employees. I don't really, reducing the amount of fields that reps have to enter, I think helps out a lot. It's hard to get them to enter all the fields that you want them to do. Go research it, go look it up, find out the right vertical. Do you totally trust that data when you want to do reporting or analytics? So it's helpful if you can do things like get an employee size by range or an employee band by saying if number of employees, then here's automatically calculated what we call employee size by range, or automatically calculate that employee band for the rep, automatically calculate the territory, the region, so they don't have to enter in all this data. And then from the sales ops side and reporting side, do we trust that to be entered correctly? The less fields, I think, the more. And the more you can generate good data and good calculations off of the less fields, the better. Auto-calculating territories based on an address. We just talked about that one a little bit. So we're going to do some more live integrations with our back office system. We do some integrations now and some uploads from the other systems, but we don't have a complete, relatively new on the system. We don't have a complete integration with some of the stuff we want. Dashboards, we'll always build out more dashboards, customer dashboards. Thinking about trying to figure out a way to scale and build rep-level dashboards. I think there's a way to do that, but I haven't quite figured out the best way to do that yet, so that reps can, clone or build their own dashboards and feel like they have a good picture of their world. So a customer dashboard, depends on the way you want to look at it. If it's customer, if you're looking for customer referrals, you could have a dashboard that shows, here are our customers by vertical, because reps always ask that question. Hey, I'm going in and say who's got which customers of ours are in the auto industry in this employee size that looks like my customer that's a prospect, right? Or if it's a specific rep level dashboard, you might have information on opportunities sold to that customer. Trying to get a good picture, number of activities for that customer, trying to get a good picture of what that customer is. I've seen people do. What I'm speaking of here more is some kind of place for a rep to actually go and say, I've got a deal that looks like this. How do I find other customers that we have that are similar to my deal? I've heard of other customer dashboards that are a little bit more specific. One customer dashboard per customer, but I don't know. It's a lot of work to do that. We are in the Q&A, so you might as well raise your hand anyways, right? So.
Sure. It's created in Salesforce or SaaS?
I'm sorry, I don't know the difference.
So the events, are those created in Salesforce itself?
Yeah. And the calculated fields, it's all in there. They've got a good, I'm not a big coder, but, I can do some of the basic stuff or figure out what I want. Sometimes what I do is, get started and then, ask the help desk. There is a good PDF document out there that shows, a quick guide to all the calculated fields and tips on that on the website. Yeah. Sure. So that was quickly go back. So we've got plenty of time here. So that is that's it's a stack rank dashboard or quota attainment dashboard. So it's percent quota attainment.
Oh, okay, so it was by their quota, and what percent?
Percent quota attainment by year and by can't find that slide too quickly. By year and by quarter. Actually, I think it was by year and month. Yeah, so year-to-date attainment on the left and current quarter attainment. It's pretty easy to, it's relatively easy to do that with a forecast. You can do a formula in there that says, percent close over quota.
We have about 30 currencies, and we have problems budgeting the revenue by the standard converted amount. Our standard currency is US dollars, but regions can forecast in any currency they use. Have you guys figured that out? Because we can't use...
So for us, everything in the system is US dollars. We actually use Big Machines for quoting. Big Machines is in different currencies, but when it gets back into Salesforce, it's converted back into US dollars. So thankfully, I don't mess around with currencies in Salesforce. So I don't have a great solution for you on that one.
Do you have somebody you might recommend to speak to about that?
I don't. I'm not familiar. I know there's currencies in the system. I don't know how they operate with that. I do know how they work in Big Machines and how we do that. I think, there's certain things you got to keep in mind with your back office and finance, right? It all depends on how you do the currency conversions and things.
Yeah, we have about 6,000 users, about half of them are overseas, and so we absolutely have to let them forecast their own currency. We just haven't found a really easy way, or any way at all, to use a converted amount in any formula field. It's just simply not available. It's available on reports, but we can't parse that out until we have the record level. We can use summary calculation. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions? Otherwise, we'll get out early.
So for that, like you might simply, look at the total deal and the CRM, including any book services, right? Because they don't technically earn the services until they deliver. What are you guys doing here? Is this based on bookings or?
Good question. So we do a couple things. I don't know if it's the right way to do it, but this is showing percent quota on current stuff that's pre-bookings, right? So we do have and have explored importing back a delta on bookings. So you can actually, I don't know if I'd actually recommend it, but I'll tell you what we do. So, we can import, negative values of an opportunity to a rep or ownership by quarter, or positive, depending on what swing up or down to match the bookings. So for past data, but that's never usually, that's not usually as up to date as the current quarter. So for now, it's a good estimate. It's not final. I wouldn't necessarily, it shows people where they're at, but it doesn't necessarily show them what they're going to get paid on, right? We pull that out of exactly.
For the appointment setting, do you have a separate appointment object, or is that part of the lead?
Appointment objects is built in. So there's, you create new, on the account record or contact record, we ask people to create activities and appointments from the contact record, which rolls up to the account record, right? So you can create a new task, or you can create a new appointment. The only difference in appointments and tasks in Salesforce, I guess, the appointments are like a physical calendar appointment versus tasks, which are tasks, but they're very similar. They, appointments have a start and end time. So hopefully that'll get synced up with Outlook one of these days. We'll get that all sorted out too. I guess they have a new Outlook thing coming out. that it?
Any other questions? Okay, so we end the session here. Thanks for joining, and thanks to Mark for doing the session for us.